Welcome to Adjusted Reality, a podcast series trusted by the adjusted and brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we learn from athletes, celebrities, influencers, and healthcare professionals about how to optimize health in a fun, relatable way. Join me, Dr. Sherry McAllister, as I speak with Karen Smith, founder of Catie's Cause. Catie's Cause is a 501c3 public charity, and it was founded by Karen after the tragic loss of her daughter, Catie. Its mission is to build awareness and combat heartache with a goal to educate about the safe use of acetaminophen and share wellness opportunities that lead to less use of over-the-counter pain medications. I am absolutely delighted to have you, Karen, on our podcast today.
Thank you, Dr. McAllister. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
We absolutely want to share our condolences for your loss, and we're very grateful that you'd be willing to share this message because it is people like you that are willing to go the next step after such a tragedy. And I'd like you to share with our listeners today, what is Catie's Cause, and can you tell us a little bit about Catie's story?
Absolutely. Well, Catie's Cause, as you mentioned, it's a 501c3. We're a public charity. We were approved by the IRS in 2001, so we're fairly new in our infancy. And our primary focus really is to bring a message of safety to the public. When I think back to what happened to Catie, I don't want that to happen to any other family. And frankly, it didn't really need to happen. So we're primarily focused on social media right now through public outreach. We bring messaging to the public through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Pinterest about how to stay safe when using acetaminophen, which is more commonly known as Tylenol, but it is in over 600 medications, and a lot of people don't realize that. So as far as Catie's story goes, I'm just going to apologize in advance because sometimes I get a little choked up when I tell Catie's story. But, you know, Catie was just a 20-year-old enjoying life. I put her photo here on my backdrop because I think that when you put a face with a name and a story, it really is impactful. And people who are out there watching who have children of their own can really relate to what it feels like to be proud of your child, to know that they're developing, they're moving into adulthood, and they're living a wonderful life. And in Catie's situation, you know, as many young people do, she had friends and she had a 3.97 GPA through her associate's degree, and she was finding her way. She was an accomplished equestrian. She had started riding horses when she was just 3. And I promise I won't tell you her whole story, except to say that equestrians really work hard with their bodies. And, you know, they're not just out on a field with a stick and a ball. They're in charge of a huge animal as well. So Catie had, you know, injuries, aches and pains from riding. And during COVID, with all the media hype about how Tylenol is important to have in the home, we went out and we bought some. Prior to that, we were not really a medication-taking family. We always tried to minimize through more natural approaches to things, and we still do. So Catie, unfortunately, like many of us did, started spending more time at home during COVID. Her job went remote. She had a change in bosses and wasn't needed that much. And she started dabbling a little bit too much in what a lot of teenagers like to do, which is to drink. And so she would be taking the Tylenol for a headache, for a hangover, you know, aches and pains related to her athletic pursuits and things of that nature. So fast forward, when Thanksgiving Day rolled around and we had a family Zoom, she was telling everyone about her latest decision, which was to become an EMT. She had toyed with becoming a child psychologist, but she didn't want a ton of years in college. And so she had decided to enroll in an EMT program to help in a different way. And then 3 days later, she called me from across the house on her cell phone because I had COVID. Our daughter Stephanie had COVID and she was in another area. And she said, "Mom, I've got to go to the ER. I'm in a ton of pain and I'm really scared." And I just jumped out of my bed and ran to where she was and said, "What's going on?" And she described upper abdominal pain and on the right. And I said, "Oh, maybe it's gallbladder or this or that." And she looked me right in the eye and she said, Mom, I'm really scared. I've been taking that Tylenol, and we had talked about it. The warnings were, something we discussed. And she said, I'm really frightened. I'm afraid. So off to the hospital ER she went by herself. They would not let any of us go in with her. And that afternoon she called and said, I'm going to be fine. A few days in the hospital. It's an unintended overdose, or what I prefer to refer to as a poisoning of Tylenol in her system from sustained use on a regular basis. And that evening, we got another call saying we need to transfer her to a larger hospital with a liver team. And then in the middle of the night, we got a call saying we need to transfer her to Columbia Presbyterian in New York City, where there's a liver transplant team. So it went from I'm going to be in the hospital for a few days to her being intubated on Monday morning at 8 a.m. And then from there, it was just so grave and we were so frightened. My husband and I agreed, though, that no matter what happened, we were going to take this situation and make other people aware. Needless to say, we were hoping Catie was going to receive a transplant. She was on the top of the transplant list, but she failed and she was resuscitated. And we had no ability to be with her until her very last day. And again, I apologize. It's a long story, but we just advocated to be with her. And finally, we were allowed to see her for an hour. And I share this heartbreaking story because I want other parents to know what's possible. Everyone always thinks nothing like that's going to happen to me. And I would always say, oh, if that's all that's happening, no big deal, right? The dog rolled in some dog doo-doo in the backyard. Big deal. It's going to go to the groomer. But when something like this happens, it's like, oh my gosh. And frankly, I think it could happen to anybody. And that's really why we started Catie's Cause, because we want people to be aware and be safe.
Karen, I think your story is so amazingly raw. And you're so right. I want to first thank your entire family for being able and willing to share such a difficult moment in your life and do it with a air of helping others. And for the listeners, Karen, I've had some time with her now, and I will tell you that from a mother to a mother, my heart holds yours. And our listeners know that this healthcare that we are all in together, and that it's a community that makes things better. And in this case, while we can't bring Catie back, we can certainly learn from a very painful story. And it's crucial because you said some very key pieces to this, which is so many teens do not recognize the dangers, especially when it relates to coming back to alcohol and being able to utilize medications while they're either waking up with that headache or, going to bed thinking this is a prophylactic to stop a headache, because you often talk to teens and they think they can divert the outcomes of using alcohol. I'm just going to prevent a hangover, so I'm going to take that acetaminophen, and that just starts us on this unfortunate wheel of unknowing and dangerous opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about, you said it's advocacy. Let's share from your perspective the goals of Catie's Cause, and then what are you working towards to achieve those particular goals?
Right. So our goals truly are to get this messaging out to as many people as we possibly can, to the general public, because it is a general public kind of situation. You mentioned acetaminophen, being a go-to, and it truly is. And it's considered a widely used drug. Of course, it is a widely used drug, but it's also considered a relatively safe drug. However, there are some really serious warnings. So our goal always is to get those warnings out to individuals, not necessarily to parrot the information that might be available on a particular company's website, like, how many pills you can take in one day, but rather to point to more wellness initiatives, along with the fact that you don't always need to take Tylenol or anything that has acetaminophen in it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, this past week, I was out with my daughter. We were on vacation and we happened to go to a local watering hole together. And there were young people saying, oh, tomorrow morning at first thing, I have to take Tylenol. And I was like, no, you don't. And let me explain why you shouldn't. But so our goals are to spread that awareness as widely as we can. And when we started, we have very limited funding. My husband and I both work full-time jobs. This is like our passion on the side of our full-time careers. And so we wanted to get into the social platform simply because we felt wider audience, less overhead. However, more recently, we were fortunate enough to receive a grant. And through that grant, we're running 2 pilot programs. One of them will be bringing coasters into a college town bar ×3. And on those coasters will be messaging about why you shouldn't drink and use acetaminophen with a QR code that can direct them to our social. And we're also connected through one of our board members with a pharmacy in New York City. And the owner of that pharmacy is on the board of an organization where we're hoping to get our brochures across the country, but we're starting a pilot through New York. And those brochures tell Catie's story and give very basic, simple warnings and facts about what to do or not to do when you are taking anything with acetaminophen. And sort of organically, I have connected with you. I'm hoping that we have more media opportunities in the future. More recently, I was connected with a researcher, Dr. William Parker, who's researching acetaminophen and autism. And so that's brought an awareness to me about the younger babies to children and how important that messaging is. And we've also been connected with Dr. Herman Bazan, who owns the South Rampart Pharma, and they're actually trying to test a new pain medication. It is in clinical trials now with the FDA. And the goal with that pain medication would be to have the same benefits of pain relief without the side effects of kidney damage, liver damage. And so we're trying to spread this awareness through various places. And one of my dreams, I can put it out there into the podcast universe, and maybe we'll get something back from it, is to connect with Grown and Flown and places like that, where they're really working with the target audience that we feel is important for us to reach.
Love it. And your goals are very, very attainable. And for everybody listening today, help Karen make Catie's cause go viral. Help her get her messaging out, because everybody needs to know what the latest research and what the side effects are. And I want Catie to kind of dive into that now, because a lot of the ignorance is you read the back of the bottle and the print is so tiny that you don't even pay attention. All you do is go to directions, you see adult, and you take what the adult suggested piece is. That's where everything starts to go haywire. So if you would give our audience a little bit about the latest research on acetaminophen, and then some of the side effects, if you would, please.
Sure. So acetaminophen is one of the most widely studied drugs out there, and there's always research going on. I'm not a researcher and I'm not a scientist, so I don't know what is the latest research, but I can point in particular to the work that Dr. Parker is doing, which is specifically around acetaminophen and autism. And what's interesting there, and I'll delve into the science a tiny little bit as he explained it to me, when children are in utero and when they're born, they have a little bit more protection in the liver than we do as we get older. And so what they've discovered is that acetaminophen is actually going after the brain in a way that is toxic as versus the liver, which is what happens when you're older and you're drinking alcohol. So talking about specifically about side effects for individuals who are taking acetaminophen as adults, they can be pretty nondescript and a little bit basic. You might think, oh, I have a stomach bug. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I'm vomiting. I don't really feel like eating. I have some nausea. And so when I present to college students, I tell them I hate to use this term, but it's like a silent killer. They don't even realize their liver is going into failure, and that's why they're feeling so poorly. And some individuals can be so susceptible that they can begin to go into liver failure even after one dose of acetaminophen. And what I would love to see, and I didn't talk about this as a goal of ours, but I would love to see in the scientific community, is more research around what made Catie more susceptible than another individual. We really don't have a susceptibility test for Tylenol or acetaminophen. Likewise, with Dr. Parker's research, it's really, without a reasonable doubt, harmful to those who are most susceptible. But how do you determine what susceptibility is and where it comes from? So I mean, I know you're asking me what the research is and what the side effects are, but I have to just come back to saying everyone needs to be careful, because you really don't know if you're susceptible or not to liver damage. And the liver is a resilient organ. You may have liver damage, and then 2 days later, you're feeling fine again. A week later, you take some acetaminophen and you're not feeling well, but you never put it together in your mind. There are a couple warnings that I want to kind of share with the general public, if I could tag it on here. And one is that sometimes you're told to take 2 medications with acetaminophen. You may go to the doctor and they're like, take Tylenol and NyQuil because you have the flu. There's a very limited margin of error with dosing for acetaminophen. So as you were saying before, as an adult, it's like, okay, I can take one every 4 hours. I take one, I don't really pay attention. Has it been 4 hours? And if you look at an Advil bottle, whatever that particular medication is, 1 to 2 every 4 to 6 hours. So there in and of itself, the way they're able to label it should be an indicator that Tylenol has a much less, margin of error. It can really be deadly if you are the type of person who doesn't eat a lot. It's worse on an empty stomach. And so there's tons of research out there. I think one of the things that's frustrating to me as a parent is that when I look back over the decades that this product has been in use, while it's true that it is generally safe, there have been decades of research that point to certain pockets of problems. There are genetic issues that they think may be at play. And the FDA, there's actually a website out there, Dr. McAllister, that has a counter on it showing how many days and years it's been since the FDA hasn't issued final regulations around this medication. And if memory serves me, we're going on 46 years. So that's problematic. That's problematic.
You're absolutely right. And it's very scary when you don't have warnings that are upfront and that you can easily read, and that potentially harm some of our greatest and most vulnerable, which is our teens and our young adults. So it's an important and massively public health issue for our college kids and our high school kids to be recognizing that acetaminophen, Tylenol is usually noted as the most common. The impact on your life, and especially as you said it, the liver takes its hits, and the liver is the detoxer of the body. So basically what you're doing is, if you think about your liver kind of like a garbage dump, is you're closing the lids on the garbage dump. So where does the garbage go? It goes everywhere in your body. And then that toxin impacts all the other organs. And that's where we specifically have these very acute hepatotoxins or liver toxin moments. And acute means almost right away. And it's exactly what Karen had said about how Catie contacted you right away and said something is not right. So I wanted to sink in for all the parents and grandparents that there's an immediate response that can happen. And it is, people want to believe it's dosage dependent. Oh, but you've been on it for months and years and yada, yada. And well, hold on a second. If that was true, then Karen wouldn't be with me right now. And she wouldn't be pointing out that we need more warnings, providing that there is an honest opportunity to communicate these kinds of things. And if I could be so bold, is how about we start communicating that non-pharmacological approach to healing? So Karen, tell me, because you did reference this right away in your family's lifestyle, was you didn't depend on a lot of medications in your family growing up. So share with us your view on the non-farm based pain relief options that you have encountered and how that might be the next step in Catie's cause.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk about it. Catie herself loved going to the chiropractor. She was a huge fan of massage and essential oils. And at Catie's Cause, we do try to bring an awareness around that to the public. I think today I hate to say it, but we're a pill popping, we're a pill popping society. What can I take? How can I alleviate this pain immediately? As versus looking to the connection between the body and how we treat ourselves, how we eat, how we exercise, and all the things that go into living a healthy lifestyle. So, Catie was an athlete, as I said, and I think it's very common for many of us, even those who are elite athletes, to reach for pain medications. But in my humble opinion, chiropractic, which is what you represent, and things such as acupuncture, they have proven benefits that a lot of people overlook. I recently had a colleague at work come by my office, and we were talking, and he was sharing with me how he had to see a neurologist. And the first thing the neurologist said to him was, "Have you been to a chiropractor?" And his initial thought was, "Oh no, now he's going to give me a hard time because so many doctors don't like chiropractors." But in fact, he commended him for going to the chiropractor. He told him he went to the best chiropractor for what he suffers from and encouraged him to continue up with that practice. And I would say the same. I've personally have been going to a chiropractor since I was a teenager. We had the family plan, we would all go together, and I learned about kinesiology and the connection between the mind and the body. And I really hope to bring a little bit more of that to the public. Many of Catie's horseback riding friends will now shy away from taking any Tylenol, and they'll text me or shoot me a message through social saying, "I did an Epsom salt bath tonight," because it really was just as good for me, and in some ways much better due to it being natural. So we're always trying to promote more natural means to pain relief through Catie's Cause. And it's interesting because I realize that we've never put up a post about chiropractic on our page. So we're going to have to do that. And specifically on Wednesdays, we refer to our Wellness Wednesdays posts, and we also are trying to promote a healthy lifestyle through a monthly mocktail. So for those who are listening and interested, there are some really great mocktail recipes that we've posted up on our social pages.
I love it. I love my own mocktails with lemon, ginger, and a little spice of cayenne. So, Karen, thank you for sharing that. And it is very interesting how times have changed, and we still need to increase the awareness on the downside of acetaminophen and the upside of non-pharmacological care. And you nailed some of the top ones, which is chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, and just the simple things. You've worked out hard, especially in equestrian, and your body, the tendon is you tighten up, and you feel that achiness, and just being able to have that relaxation in an Epsom salt bath is wonderful. So I love your Wellness Wednesdays and your mocktails, all really, really good. And as you post, it is September, and the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress is a big, big advocate of Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month. In fact, we dedicate our entire month to supporting such advocacy work as Catie's Cause to make sure people are aware that there are better options and primarily try them first. So it is Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month in September, and many state associations in chiropractic have adopted a proclamation and also had a conversation with mayors and senators about how this information needs to get out and be active about it. And I think that's one of the big pieces is we need our voices heard, and to get that momentum happening, it's going to take a village. So share this podcast with your friends and family more than anyone that we've done before, because this can change the way people look at things. So the things they look at change. Instead of looking to a pharmacological solution, there's no reason why not try a drug-free approach. That's really, it comes down to start safety first. And if you've had a night out and you've really enjoyed it and you forgot to hydrate, you know what, there's penance here. There's what, you wake up the next morning and you just say, okay, I'm going to hydrate my body really well, and I'm going to eat really well because I did have a good night. And I want the teenagers that are listening to remember that every day is a brand new day to start all over again. And that's where Karen comes in. Is every day she has a beautiful opportunity to educate people around her, taking the heartache that she suffered and making people aware. So Karen, let's talk about how people can support the efforts of Catie's cause.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, as you said earlier, please come follow us on social and share those posts widely. We really know that there's impact when our posts are shared. People reach out, they tell us stories about the change it made in their lives, the lives of roommates and college friends and family members. And so that's the number one request that I have, is just to follow us on social media at Catie's Cause. Sign up for our newsletter on our website, which is catiescause.org. And, and certainly Catie would have been turning 23 this month on the 27th of September. And we're going to be rolling out a special birthday program to honor her. And so for those who are able to get onto our social platforms and sign up for our emails, you'll be privy to that sneak peek. No, I'm not going to provide it, but you can receive it by following us and hear all about the special birthday program that we're going to roll out to honor Catie's memory.
That's beautiful, Karen, and happy heavenly birthday, Catie. And thank you so much for watching over Catie's cause. For those that are listening, if you want to join this cause, it's catiescause.org. And that's really how we're going to make an impact around the world, is being able to share, especially during her birthday month, and reflecting how acetaminophen can impact your life, and how you do not take this as nonchalant as many of us have done in the past, is that we bring it to light and we make it aware that all pharmacological options come with side effects. Recognize them, embrace them, be well in tune with them. And Karen, I want to sincerely thank you for all that you do to save hundreds of thousands of lives just by getting this message out, and for having Catie as the top-notch angel watching over all of us, in knowing that we have to be very respectful in Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month on what we put in our mouths and what we feed our minds. So that, Catie, is your gift to our entire world. And Karen, I can't thank you enough, from a mother to a mother, on how you have shared your heart, your soul, and your resources with our audience today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Adjusted Reality as we spoke to Karen Smith about Catie's cause and non-pharmacological care. At the foundation, we pride ourselves in making September a big month of awareness. We call it the Drug-Free Pain Management Awareness Month to ensure that all of our families and friends can prosper and reduce the risk of side effects of pain medication by trying a drug-free option first. Chiropractors around the globe are working hard to build a lifestyle that optimizes your health for you and the ones you love. This podcast was brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress and is a special gift for listening today. You can visit f4cp.org/health to get a copy of our Mind, Body, Spirit ebook, which focuses on many ways to optimize your health and the ones you love without the use of drugs or surgery. Now, do not forget to subscribe, share this podcast with your friends and your family, rate and review. And if you're feeling so inspired to learn about chiropractic or to find a doctor of chiropractic near you, visit f4cp.org/find a doctor. We appreciate your support and we look forward to checking in with you again soon.